Hello and welcome to Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, Vitamin Mist, and with me as always is Matt Bredenberg.
Hey, you did great.
Yay, that's good. I sounded like a NPR announcer though.
You did. Welcome to our deep discussion today on stuff.
On ghostly palettes
Yeah.
and how we drink them in spirit glasses.
Yes. And werewolves and witches and high school.
Yes. And being a kid in high school sucks.
Yes. Oh, high school.
Never want to go back. You're just like, the golden years, and you're like, no, fuck that. Mm-mm.
No. Only if I could be like, and people talk about this all the time, but like with all the knowledge and all the snarkiness of now, if I
Yes.
could go back.
Exactly. Oh my God, I would rule probably a little bit. I would probably rule a little bit better, but I wouldn't probably rule. But I would survive better.
Yeah. And at least like understand that high school is just high school and not the world.
Yeah. I mean, here in Iceland, it doesn't really matter, like because we're such a small community that it wasn't like that. We didn't. At least I didn't experience we had that kind of mentality.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, it's like
That's
I'm maybe if I come back, I would be a little less awkward. But I was everything in between. Like I was a geek, I was a dweeb, and I was also a theater kid. So
Oh, you had like the trifecta.
almost, but I wasn't popular.
I like half my junior year and senior year, that's when I like realized everything and completely changed. My first 2 years there was rough, but like I had really long hair, like down to my shoulder length hair. Um, and then
Of
I
course you
cut
did.
yes. And then I chopped it all off and I was very spiky hair because it was the 90s and that was what you
Yes.
did. And then I worked at a radio station, like a real radio station. So that I was working with radio DJs and this was year 2000, 99. And even back then they were like the radio's dying. And so all these DJs were just like depressed, crazy people. And so like I learned real quick. I was like, oh, high school really doesn't matter because I'm hanging out with, and in my brain, my 19, 18-year-old brain, I was like, this is great. They're giving me alcohol and they're giving me weed and I don't care. And so
It's
anyway.
so funny at that time that they were like declaring that radio was dying, but then when you see like the Fallout games, you're like, actually, no, that's the one thing that fucking survived.
Yeah, well, and like it's still around.
Yeah, and
Like,
it's still around. It's like, what do you mean it's dying? It's just got more like informed, if anything.
yeah, it was. I mean, like the one thing I did learn is it's a very nomadic job because like you just go where the jobs are. So there was all the DJs had moved from like other states just to get a job at this station, but they knew like down the road that they were probably gonna have to move somewhere else. So it was just like this sad, pathetic life of working as a radio DJ.
That's an interesting story just waiting to be written.
it's it's an adventure and like what's funny is I still like and I worked so like I was DJing like midnight to 4 a.m. shifts and stuff and so I still have the nightmares of like dead air or being locked out of the studio or not finding the right CD because we used CDs at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just like it was crazy. And there's certain songs I just cannot stand from that period or even before that period
You
because of
just
the
get
radio.
flashbacks.
Yes, I'm just like, oh God. But and anyway, that was our little diatribe.
That was just like our, walk along memory lane.
Yes. We have what? We have two stories we are discussing because this is Pride Month. We are discussing, and these are both free short stories. Spirit Tasting List for Ridley House, April 2016 by Alex Axe. And we'll cover where you can find that in a minute. And then You Were Once Wild Here by Carly St. George.
Yes.
And these were both
Both completely different stories, but both fitting really well though with what we're talking about. Like this being Pride Month. Happy Pride, everyone.
yeah.
I feel so happy that I actually get to celebrate it twice. Like you guys have it in June. So I of course celebrate with you guys there. But here in Iceland, we celebrate it in August.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, we have Pride, like we have the Pride parade there in August and everything.
Interesting. Do you have
I
a
know.
special month for this month?
No, this is basically just like, hey, the start of summer.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's like June is made basically just hey, start of summer, just start traveling around the country. Bring us
Yeah.
money.
Big money. It's kind of like that here too. But also we have pride parades and marches and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I think the reason we like have Pride Month in August and the Pride Parade in August is because like they like in association with the city, they are like planning a lot of these events in August, and like basically kind of their way of like celebrating the end of summer.
ah,
Like because right at the end of August, like schools are starting again and everything like that. So they just want to conclude the end of summer with a bang.
that's nice.
So they have the Pride Parade, and also we have this what we call the Culture Night, in
Okay.
which most of the like establishments in the city are like open for everyone to see, and there are like a lot of events going on all throughout the night and everything, and it ends with a fireworks display around 11.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a good way to end off summer.
Yeah, Russell Crowe actually came one time.
Really? Why?
Yeah. He was just I think he was just traveling around here. I can't remember. And there were live bands throughout the night, and my husband actually almost bumped into him. That was funny. He was just on his way to one of the pubs that had the live bands, and he just sang a few songs. He's a terrible singer, by the way. Yeah, he's a terrible singer.
I was gonna ask, does he have a band, or is he just like, I'm gonna sing?
He has a band. Yeah, I think he actually has a band. But I don't know if it was that like his own band that was playing with him or not. I can't remember. But it was funny, like that he actually accidentally bumped into him. I'm like, and he just like, oh, I'm sorry, mate. And then I just looked at him, my husband, like, good, he just almost bumped into Russell Crowe. And he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And then we like went to the concert, like, "Oh my god, this is actually him." And then I can't remember. I can't. There was also my husband's he's gonna shout at me because I can't remember her name. But there was also one singer, like female singer, that also came in and sang with him. But fuck. I keep thinking Janis Joplin, but I'm like, no, it's not her. She's fucking dead.
Yeah, it was her ghost.
No, I can't remember. She's like a rock star.
Huh. Joan Jett?
Maybe? I can't.
Just guessing.
As soon as we're done recording and I go up into the room, like, hey, what do you remember the singer? And he will immediately tell me. So yeah, we can add it in post.
Yeah, there you go. We'll just plug it in here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I appreciate that I can celebrate it in like 2 months, Pride Month.
Awesome. Well, yes. So we're celebrating it here now. But I guess first, should we discuss some media that we've watched, read,
Yes.
did?
Do you want me to go first or you?
You can go first.
Oh boy. I have to ask you, Matt. Did you watch Under Paris?
I did not yet.
Oh my god. I saw like everyone on Twitter was talking about this movie, and I remember I saw the trailer when it was like coming soon on Netflix. And I just knew immediately how bad this is gonna be. I'm like, oh my god, this is a bad fucking film. And then I was like, but it's probably the bad kind that is so fucking ridiculous that you just end up laughing the entire time.
Oh,
It's
nice. Those are
it's
good.
not it's not the it's not the Zack Snyder type bad,
Okay.
in which I almost wanted to throw stuff at my TV. No, this movie is like a lot of people thought Deep Blue Sea was like ridiculously bad,
Yeah, yeah.
and it is, but it's still but it's still like an enjoyable flick that you can like watch from time to time.
Exactly. LL Cool J, Talking Bird,
Oh
Thomas
man,
Jane.
but the fucking bird, they ate the bird. I didn't like that. It's like, why do you have to have additional animals if it's going to be a creature feature?
I think the
But
bird was a ghost. I think LL Cool J was the only one that saw the bird.
I like that theory.
So
We need
it was his innocence.
we need LL Cool J to confirm this.
It was the innocence of LL Cool J's character, and when it got eaten, that's when he started fighting back. I actually have no idea. I'm just.
Oh my god, that's such a good theory, though. Okay, so anyway, this film, this is a French film, and what I think is so funny that they decided to release this film just before the Summer Olympics.
Yeah.
The Summer Olympics are happening in Paris right now, or like they will start like at the end or the beginning of the middle of June.
Yeah.
And it's not being well received, but by the Parisians.
Yeah.
Because because I get it. I don't understand why we're still doing this.
Yeah, it's like a big parasite.
It is, and it's also just like you're hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
You're never going to earn that much that you're paying to do just to make your city look prettier for like a couple of days.
Right. And like the stadiums they build just end up sitting empty.
Yes, it's just, why are you doing this? Just keep it to one fucking place.
Yeah.
And then and the cities that are like, there's a player, like the countries that are going there, they can send money there.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Just like build like a giant island in
Yes.
the ocean, because then no country can claim it.
Yes.
It's just an Olympic island and do Olympics there.
Again, this is a story waiting to be written. But yeah, this is so fucking stupid. And so what they're doing now, they're actually like, there are a lot of homeless people in Paris right now.
Yeah.
Like a lot of course they start to do this while I'm recording. Did you hear the drill?
Yeah.
Yeah. My neighbors. Fucking neighbors. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
But yeah, so there are a lot of homeless people in Paris, and a lot of refugees who are just, they don't have a home or anything like that. And they're actively relocating those people to a very bad neighborhood away from Paris, like away from the center of Paris, I think. Which I think is horrifying. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. They have no place to go. And in addition to that, they decided like, hey, we're gonna clean up the Seine, like the River Seine. Which is nice. I mean, but this fucking river has been so polluted for such a long time. I mean, they tried to do this with the River Thames in England, and they still can't. It's still so fucking polluted. And so they want to make the reason they're doing it because they want to make Paris more presentable. And President Emmanuel Macron and the mayor of Paris, I think her name is Hidalgo, they're claiming that by this time the Summer Olympics begin, the river will be so clean that they're going to go swim in it.
Okay.
And that prompted the very interesting protest, let's go shit in the Seine. There is actually going to be a protest of many Parisians who are just going to take an actual dump in the Seine by the time they're going to go for a swim.
Oh my god.
Because apparently, as they put it, when they're putting us so much shit, they better swim in ours.
I love it.
I love it too. I'm like, this is amazing. And okay, I'm getting a little bit off track here, but
I was like, where's the sharks?
But I still find it really interesting that they're releasing this film just before the Summer Olympics because this film has sharks in the Seine.
Oh my god.
Which is really interesting because, as the fucking protagonist points out, who is, I think, a marine biologist or something like that, it doesn't matter. She's like, but this is a freshwater. They can't survive in this. And they can't come up with this stupid, like, oh no, because, the oceans or everything, it's the pollution of the ocean and how everything's getting warmer. They've adapted.
Oh my god.
Like, they put that
amazing.
To be able to swim in fresh water. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Then why are the rest of the, sea animals doing that?
Yes.
Why is it just sharks? And I find it so funny that they for the beginning of the film, they are really pushing on saving this one shark. That has entered the Seine. Like, oh no, we have to save it before it dies. I'm like, this is one fucking shark. Like, what the fuck?
It's their friend.
In the beginning of the movie, she was doing research on this shark, see how far it would travel and something like that. And then they in the beginning it was really small, but then by the time the movie begins, it's gotten huge. And we're talking about bigger than the shark in Jaws.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah. That's saying something, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course she the shark viciously kills everyone in her crew, her scientist crew, and leaving her only alive. And which is funny, she gets dragged into the ocean, really deep into the ocean, to the point that her eardrums bursts.
Oh my god.
And blood comes seeping out of it, but miraculously she has enough air and she's been screaming while she's being dragged by the fucking shark into the depths. She still has enough air to go swim back to the surface, which kind of gives you the the idea oh, this is gonna be that ridiculous. Okay, then buckle up, this is gonna be fun.
Oh my god.
And then they don't even go with the repercussions of what happens when you burst your eardrum. You have irreparable hearing damage.
She'll be fine.
No, yeah, she has perfect hearing. She doesn't have a hearing aid or anything. And I'm like, fuck you, bitch. That doesn't happen. I can forgive that you still had an extra lung there where you can go up back into the surface. But I crossed the line at bursting your fucking eardrum.
It's because of the mutated water. She's a mutant now.
Yes, it must be that. So yeah. So this story, like I said, they are revolved around them trying to save this one shark. And then I zoned out because my brain cells kind of they refused to pay attention to this. But then I suddenly came up and they had this kind of activism group where they all gathered around and deep underground, under the Seine. It was kind of maybe it was near the catacombs, I don't know. Somewhere deep underground there was water there, and they were going to lure the shark there.
Okay.
And capture it there. And I'm like, and again, my brain cells kind of shut down. But of course, the shark brings buddies.
Of course. I bring
So
their
it
gang.
basically, so if because like I said, I zoned out of the film, so I don't know why they brought so many other sharks there. They were small sharks, but they were still great whites. And they just started, just brutalizing, killing the people. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you kind of put yourself into that situation, so I have no fucking pity for you guys. I was just laughing at how ridiculously they were like dying there, like they were just being torn off.
Oh my god.
And in such a really, and in some cases, in a really bad CGI way. Like Deep Blue Sea did it better, you know.
Yeah.
You know the scene when she's like, when the girl like is like basically lifted up by because the shark has her in his mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie did a lot of that,
Oh my god.
but in worse CGI.
So like, okay, so it's a river. Were there like a lot of people just hanging out on the river? Like, how did this? I mean,
yeah. Oh my god, it gets Matt, it gets worse. So they like, even though so many activists, like basically young people, were just brutally slaughtered, the mayor was not like, no, we're still gonna have this triathlon, because they had a triathlon in this movie, and I'm like, Summer Olympics, guys. In which they were gonna swim in the Seine. And there was like, despite the evidence, the mounting evidence that there was like a horde of sharks just, swimming around in the Seine, they were like, no, it's fine. We're just gonna continue with the preparation, because you do know how much money we've spent on this preparation. And I'm like, oh my god, guys. And then it happens, and so the marine biologist and the river cops, like they have river cops.
Okay.
They decided like, oh, we'll just do it all thing. We'll just protect them, and they like try to, kind of like mount, like gear off where the sharks are and where the competition is. But the thing is, they like, it's in the beginning of the movie. And this is spoiler, so guys, if you haven't seen Under Paris, I'm sorry, but I'm going to spoil everything for you, so you don't have to watch this piece of crap. They found like a live shell, like bomb shell from the World War II.
Okay.
And apparently, there isn't just one shell in the Seine; there are like thousands of them. Like nestled in the fucking deep. And I'm like, okay, sure. And they at first were thinking of using that to bomb the sharks.
Oh my god.
And they nixed that idea, because, oh no, oh my god, they could actually, drown us all. But then it happens. Like there was like two boats that were just circling the shark, and they were like firing guns into the ocean, like into the river. One of them actually had a shot with like a handgun, and I'm like, what's that gonna help?
Yeah.
This is a big ass shark who's like survived so much thing. How is a handgun gonna stop it? And of course, one of the shots hits the live shell, and it just gets this chain reaction of bombs going off in the Seine.
Oh my lord, that's messed up.
And it just like destroys all the bridges that lead to the city, like the center of the city, and it just floods the city.
Oh my gosh.
And like the movie ends with like the two of them, the two fucking main protagonists. They survived this because, of course, they did.
Of course.
And they're just like in the middle of a floating city, like a sunken city. And they're like, oh my god, what did we do? And then there are like 1,000 sharks circling them. And I'm like, and it ends like that. You're like, what?
Okay.
I was laughing the entire time. It's like, I did not expect a comedy.
Yeah.
Because it was so ridiculous. I'm like, I cannot take this fucking film seriously, because of course you weren't meant to do that, but at the same time, like, there has to be some logic here, people. At least there is in horror movies. There's at least a little bit of logic. Just a little bit. But nope, nothing in this.
Oh wow.
Except for the fact that, don't ever fucking swim in the Seine.
Yeah. Okay. It was on my list last night. I had 2 movies and that was one of them, and I went with a different one. But now I kind of want to watch it.
I mean, seriously, despite like I said, this is so ridiculous. Like it's so bad, it's ridiculously funny. So yeah, definitely check it out if you just want to laugh.
Oh man, that's insane.
And it's funny though because in a creature feature, I usually feel bad for the creature. Like
Yeah.
like in when I was watching Anaconda, I hated the fact like I was terrified of the snake.
Yeah.
But I hated the fact at the end that they added when it caught on fire, this wailing.
Yeah.
It's like, please don't give it sound when these
Yeah.
animals don't even give out sounds. Because that's gonna make me feel sorry for it, and I fucking hate that. Like it gave such a horrifying wail as it was burnt alive, and I'm like, oh my god, the poor snake.
It just wanted to eat people.
Yeah, it's like it was just feeding his babies. What's wrong with you? So in this case, because the shark was so stupid, like they were eating so many people, and I was like, "How are you guys not full? Like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with you? How are you just not the hibernate and like going to and hibernate? Because
Yeah.
you've been eating so much. Like, what the fuck?
It's the
So,
mutant gene.
Yeah, it must be like the fucking seas, guys. I think everyone should just jump into the ocean. You can go and swim in fresh water.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah. I had a blast yesterday, even though I zoned out like for the half of the movie.
Oh yes. That's- I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, it's sort of tied to this, but not really at all. I read a book. Nathaniel Benchley, who is Peter Benchley's father, who wrote Jaws. Nathaniel Bench.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is sweet. So sort of ties to the shark movie. But the book really doesn't. He wrote a book called The Visitors that was recently re-released through Valancourt. And the sell was quite amazing because it is about a family that moves into a house that is haunted by 3 spirits. One of the spirits being a cantankerous old pirate captain, or sea captain, not pirate captain, sea captain. And I was like, I'm down for cantankerous sea captains that are ghosts. I want to read this. So I picked it up. It's good. Apparently they made a movie of this, and William Castle made a movie of this, but I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. I'm looking to see. Called The Spirit is Willing. And the cover has Charles Addams of the Addams Family did the cover for this. So the cover is very sweet. The book itself is quite enjoyable, but is not what you expect. So this family, like I said, a family kind of moves into this old house for the summer, but they might buy it. And it's in this small town in New England somewhere. And everyone in this small town knows this house is haunted, that everyone who rents it either goes insane or dies or runs out of the house within days. So they're like already placing bets on this family, the Powells, that are going to do it. So we're following them. It's a husband, wife, and like 16-year-old son. And they are the father was like an ad exec, but then he worked for a magazine, and the magazine kind of fired him, and he's got a problem with his back, which kind of plays a role into the whole story. So he's there. His wife, she is a very rational human. If she cannot like understand something, it's just not real, or like if it doesn't fit in like a rational kind of explanation, she will find one for it, which plays a huge role in this story. And then the son is just a 15-year-old boy, and I think this was written it was published in 1965, so probably written in the late 50s, early 60s. It's very much a look at that time in a small town, and just like it's sort of humorous. there's just a lot of like weird little funny bits in there, and just because there's three ghosts that are doing stuff to the house, but like nothing major, just doing kind of poltergeisty type things, like throwing stuff and messing with walls, making the walls bleed and everything like that. And the husband and the son have seen these things and they know something is up, but the wife, because she's rational, just always finds an excuse for whatever it is. And so that's really funny because she just like, she'll dig deep for whatever excuse it possibly could be. So that's kind of the setup. Then they have their Uncle George comes in, and he's this rich old guy, and he comes into the house, of course, is on the water, because I think Nathaniel Benchley and Peter Benchley are huge water fans. So this spends a lot of time on water stuff. And Uncle George shows up with this huge yacht in the, like, there's a little cove by this house, and then the boat sinks, and then it turns into this big ordeal. So anyway, that's kind of like the setup to the story and like where it kind of goes. And it's just all these like humorous things, and like the concept of like believing they're like there's a librarian who knows and speaks to all these ghosts all the time and speaks to other ghosts all the time. And she's like, the only way to deal with ghosts is believing in them. If you don't believe in them, then they get really mad and they do stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's where the like boy and the father kind of like they're not safe, but they're safer than the wife, because the wife doesn't believe in all these things, yet she finds excuses every time. So it's very entertaining. There's not as much cantankerous sea captain as I was hoping there would be. I mean, it's on the back cover is that the cantankerous sea captain runs this place and has murdered his wife and all these things. And so you're like expecting this, but it's really not. It's just more of like a farcical look at early 60s, late 50s life. So it's entertaining. It kept my attention all the way through, and it's a funny kind of like haunted ghost story. Like I probably should have looked. I'm trying to think when The Haunting of Hill House came out. Probably around the same time. I feel like
Okay.
that was the 60s. I don't know. I could look it up, but like Shirley Jackson and her book, and so it's a funny look at ghost stories and haunted house stories of that time, because like you're not really dealing with the ghosts, and I guess that's sort of the same for Haunting a Hill House. You're not really dealing with it, like you are dealing with the ghosts, but more just like dealing with somebody finding themselves and figuring themselves out, and maybe they don't understand, like people around them don't get them. So you kind of have that, but you just have this like just weird look of like the city, like all the like townsfolk, and how obsessed they are with the ghosts, and how they almost see stuff, and like they're place bets on going into the house, and just all these things. And then they throw a big party at the end, and there's ghosts going around goosing people, and ripping off people's clothes, and it's just, but nobody believes it's a ghost. They're like, oh, that's just so and so. So anyway, it's entertaining. It's definitely worth picking up. Just look at it more as a humorous take on haunted house stories, that probably the jokes would fall more if you were in that time, but still funny now. So The Visitors by Nathaniel Benchley.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. What did you have anything else?
I did. I've been in a kind of like a documentary kind of kick recently,
Nice.
and I watched the Dancing for the Devil documentary that's on Netflix.
I've been seeing it advertised.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had no idea this was like a cult. So it's kind of like it was advertised as like the 7M TikTok cult.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, because despite being a millennial, I do enjoy being on TikTok. And I just like, oh, this is interesting. So because everything that screams cult at me, I'm there. Because you like, it's like, listen, America, you have a problem.
Just a little.
Like, there's so many cults there. Like, what's
Oh
wrong
yeah,
with you?
we are
And
just yeah.
it's just so funny because like I've had this kind of discussion with some of my Icelandic friends, and like even my husband and one of my coworkers, and they are like sharing this same fascination with me. I'm like, what it is? Why is there so many cults in America? And I'm like, because we actually, and this is kind of a jab at your educational system.
Oh, it's okay.
Um, they do not kind of like celebrate or like push for constructive thinking,
Yeah.
and or just like ask, like allowing children in general just to ask but why. And we're also like, Iceland claims to be a Christian thing, but the thing is, from what I've gathered, like around my peeps, we're not that Christian. Like we're Protestants maybe, but at the same time we do not adhere to it as much as my fellow Americans would.
Yes.
So I like this notion of cults hasn't really reached here in Iceland because of these both of these aspects, constructive thinking and not allowing not allowing this to happen. Like I think at one point we did not allow Scientology to come here,
Oh, that's good.
but we unfortunately do have Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses,
Yeah.
which are cults in my opinion.
Yes.
Um, so I mean, there's some people might get loopholes, but it doesn't matter. So like anything that like revolves around cults, I'm always interested to watch this. And this was a really interesting one because this involves TikTok and the dance revolution that was like sweeping TikTok at the time.
Yeah.
It's like where people were dancing to some kind of beat, something like that. And it was funny, like there was always like these two people who were doing this kind of dance. And when they were showing that in the documentary, it just hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I've actually seen some of these videos on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought there was just like but just normal people, just people who love to dance who were just putting it on TikTok.
Yeah.
But they're doing it in order to get money to get that money to the cult leader that is
Oh my
ruling them.
gosh. That's insane.
And like it's basically about the story of like a family. One like there was a sisters who loved to dance together, and they like wanted to do like follow that dream. Went to LA, and then the other sister kind of fell into this group of dancers, and all of these dancers fell into this cult.
Jeez.
And at first, it was just like they just like, oh, it's just kind of church, This guy who was doing our like media management or something like that. His father is a preacher or like something like that. So we could just go to church with them. And from there, it just they got stuck. They couldn't leave. But thankfully, some of them could, and they were like giving their witness stories to like in the documentary, like how it was and everything like that. But that one of them is still there. Like the girl, like the sister is still there in that cult. And the cult leader is so sinister because he did something that most cult leaders would not do, which was a really smart thing of him to do. Because most cult leaders, they thrive on isolation.
Yeah.
They thrive on isolating everyone from their loved ones. But it's kind of hard to do that now in this kind of age.
Yes.
In the digital age and everything like that, with TikTok and everything. So like this family, they got sick of it and they just went on TikTok begging for her to come back home, and it went viral.
Jeez.
So it went like on the news and everything. So the cult leader saw that, and he was like, oh, you know what, we're going to change tactics now. You will go back to them and you will act like nothing has happened. And they did. But the thing is, they were not like they went back to the families, but the families were not allowed to talk about or criticize the cult. Then
Oh,
they would go
jeez.
back. So they kind of like he gave them the illusion that they were back, that everything was fine, which is a smart thing to do. But he still
Yeah.
has a hold on them.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a really
Very-
sinister thing to think.
Yeah.
And and there was this like an interview with two other sisters, like who were of Korean descent, because this guy is, I think, of Korean descent as well, like the cult leader. And he mainly like was taking immigrants, like of like Asian immigrants, into his wing, and I say that with quotation marks. um, and of course, what happens when you get too in deep with a cult leader?
Oh no.
Yeah, one of the girls admitted that he has been sexually assaulting a lot of the people there,
Jeez.
and she managed to get out, and also her sister, but just the consequences, just what happened, just this still lies too deep in them. But they tried to sue him,
Yeah.
but I don't think it mattered because it's so hard to sue cults
Right.
because they still have this kind of label of being a religion. So it was interesting. It was only three episodes, but it gave you some insight into what this cult is, and it just made me like question everything about what I see at TikTok right now.
Right. That's what I was just thinking. It's like it makes you wonder, like all the trends, who's actually starting them, and
Yeah.
who's taking advantage of them.
Yeah. I think like if people watch this, it might make them think about this. So like always approach everything with caution.
Yeah. That is smart, and that's just terrifying to think about.
It is, because these people, like the dancers, they were just like, we were just here because we love dancing and we're just trying to, provide for us. We were starving artists.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to be heard. We wanted to be seen. And this guy gave us the opportunity, but at the same time, he took our freedom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is just management in general?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, yeah. It's a little when you look at that stuff, it makes you wonder like what else could be considered a cult.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a whole other topic that we could discuss later on. But yeah, this is like, it was wild. It was a wild ride.
Yeah, I was wondering about it because I saw it and I was like, oh, it's interesting, like an idea, because I mean, yeah, you see trends like dancing on TikTok or whatever it may be, and so I was interested to see how they like what somebody did with that. So, geez, it's crazy.
Definitely, yeah, it was interesting. So definitely if you're into cult, guys, just check it out. any kind of cult is always worth like investigating or just like reading into, because how they still operate eludes me.
Yeah, actually, and I was just thinking about that too. What you had said about him being smart and letting them free. Or using TikTok. It's interesting to see a cult like adapt,
Yeah.
and people doing it new ways, because it is kind of in this time, and not to judge anybody because I know how those. I mean, watching enough documentaries, you know how cults operate and make you feel special at first. So not judging anybody that gets into that stuff, but like this day and age of being online and reading and documentaries on Netflix and Prime and YouTube and everything, like it is a great question. It's like, how do these still operate and exist? But
Yeah,
they just find new ways.
I know, it's just really hard because there's so many people that are vulnerable to this.
Yeah.
And like the dancer said, like we were like, our vulnerable state was that we almost didn't have a home, we didn't have any money, we were just basically surviving. And
Yeah.
this is what these kind of leaders seek.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and especially, I mean, again, like we said, we could have a whole topic about this, but like,
Yes.
it is, you had brought up just that idea of like cults in America, and I agree with all of what you had said. And I also think it's this people like there is such a divide between different classes, lower, middle, and upper, and so you kind of already have that like mentality of like I just want to reach the next class,
Yeah.
and I my life isn't great unless I'm whatever is above me. And then you have people talking about it online, but even like before then you have people who look and act and seem awesome, and you're like I want to be that person, and that person's being really nice to me and is giving me something, and I not gonna ask. I'm just gonna go with it because that thing is giving me what I want. It's a whole that's a whole world. It's insane.
I know it is. Like you can just go straight into the rabbit hole, and it's just going to be so sinister, morbid, but fascinating at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially if you have constructive thinking,
Yes.
and you just kind of like how and why.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I understand that sometimes like people don't have this kind of like trust between them. They don't have, like I said, a village to help them.
Hmm.
And this is basically what they end up seeking.
Yeah. They find like they're a different village. It just so happens that that village is a cult.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. All right.
Like
Well, that's
I have nothing against this as long as it doesn't bring harm to others.
yeah.
Then I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing it just to like if the cult leader would just do it to himself, I don't give a shit. But if he would advocate for others to do it just to seek enlightenment, I
Hmm.
question that.
Yes. 100%.
So be on the lookout, guys. They apparently are still everywhere.
Yeah. If yeah, yes. And I can't remember if we had talked about this a long time ago or if it was on a documentary, but like the big thing that I saw is like the best way to tell if you're in a cult is what happens to a person if they leave. Um,
Yes.
because if you've
Like
watched, and I'm sure you definitely have, but like some cults, they don't want you to leave, and they will find out they will ruin your life if you leave. So
exactly. Like if you start to overshare with a particular group, that's a red flag. Then
yeah,
you're in a cult.
yeah. So yeah, so watch out for that. If your leader is infallible, look out for that.
Yep.
um, so I just have one more, and I can
Okay.
be kind of quick on this. I read Charlene Ellsby's Violent Faculties. Um, I don't know if
Oh,
you've
okay.
heard of
No,
this.
I haven't heard of it.
Okay, so this came out from Clash, I think earlier this year, and yeah, actually earlier this year. So this is awesome, and actually it's really interesting because of what we're going to be talking about in a minute. So this is it's just a novella, and it is presented in a style of like I'm gonna say like a graduate thesis or something like that. So it has footnotes and it has these certain sections. And what it is a philosophy professor who is presenting this thesis thing on like basically like dehumanizing people and like what this means to the human spirit and or body. And so it basically like as you're reading it, it's written very much in like like a essay professorial style. So it's giving you all these like this deep research into philosophy, and there's footnotes in there about where these things came from and like actual books and people, and just these experiments like she presents it as I want to prove how much is a human, like does the human lose its humanity if it can't speak. Animals can't speak, and so humans can speak. But if we lose our ability to speak, are we now animals? So like all this is kind of presented up front, but like what is happening is she is taking people and torturing and or doing things to them. So like this speaking thing is she kidnapped somebody that she knew really well. I think she was dating him or her, and she cuts out her tongue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like, but again, the way it's presented at first, you're reading this and it feels like a nonfiction research paper. And then slowly it gets into like, and then I chopped off just a bit of her tongue and she was moving kind of funny. And like, it was hard to get a clean cut. So it, that's that. So that's what's, and it's just like that. It goes from like cutting a tongue to like, really gross hard idea of like semen, and if semen can cure like make a human whole again. So the three parts that will kill a human is like a headshot, a shot to the heart, and a shot to the stomach. And so her experiment, and again, this is in the book, so hopefully not a total trigger warning, but is to use semen to heal these wounds. So it just like, yeah, it's extremely intense and like just delivered in such a way that you're like feel like you're learning about philosophy, but then you're also like horrified by what's happening. And the whole big behind the scene thing is that she was basically her department at a college was closed, and so she is dealing with basically being fired and like because of like budget cuts and stuff like that. So she's trying to prove how important this is and straight like we're getting revenge on the people who did this to her. And she slowly degrades as the book progresses, and you're seeing it all through this research paper. So it's absolutely like just insane, and just awesome the way it's delivered, because it's very detached while these things are happening. Though every once in a while you get to kind of see through this person who's writing this. You kind of like see through the detachment into how they're handling being let go, and that their life was kind of ruined, and their humanity and everything like that. So it's awesome. I loved it, and the way it like the way Charlene writes it is just amazing. You're in it, and she is actually a philosophy professor, so there is that like fun extra level where you're like, is she doing all this? But of course she's not. But it adds to that as you're reading it, and even the way it's Clash presented it like at the front. I think there's like a little note about this being displayed as is, and like what we found, and so it's almost a found footage, but not quite delivered in that way. And at the end too, there's like a little bit that's random notes that either was from this character or from somebody pretending to be the character, and so you're kind of like thrown off just enough to be like, what actually happened? So it's awesome. It's definitely worth reading. It reminded me a lot of, obviously with the philosophy stuff of like Thomas Ligotti, but then also with these torture scenes, because there are a number of them in this, but again, delivered detached. Reminded me a bit of Kathy Koja as well. So
okay.
yeah, it's definitely a good mix and like into that. But like the Ligotti stuff in this isn't cosmic horror. It's just this using philosophy to explain the horror of what's happening. So I'll put it that way. It's not because it's definitely all set in reality. Everything that's happening in here is set in actual reality. So yeah, violent
but still strange as fuck.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. I mean, there's just like when you start like the way she presents her arguments on like doing certain things to certain people, you're still just like, holy crap. But like she she she's pulling from famous philosophers from way back in the day and like showing what they were saying and just doing it in a way of like, well, this is what they said would happen, so I'm gonna do it. And you're like, okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, and I think it's perfect for this week just because of the spirit tasting list for Ridley House, the way that is delivered and the way this is delivered. I'm just that style, and this is my segue into our discussion, is just like awesome. We've talked about it with other media, obviously Late Night with the Devil and some of these other things, Ghost Watch and found footage. Like, I love seeing creative people deliver something in a different way. So
yeah. It's like they're going out of their like comfort zone.
Yes, they're going out
and taking the reader along for the ride.
Exactly. And they're taking something that you're used to seeing, so like a tasting list of wine, and in this case twisting it into cups that will catch ghostly spirits, sort of.
Yes.
So like I just love that, like twisting an everyday delivery and making it horror, because I think that's a cool new way, because this spirit tasting list for Ridley House 2016 could have just been a story about people at this Ridley House, but Alex, it's Alex, right? It is Alex.
Yeah.
Yes. They did a good job of delivering this in a certain way that isn't just a story about a haunted house.
No, well, like it is a haunted house, but at the same time, we get just through tasting their spirits, we get a whole story about the residents who lived there.
Yes.
And we do it like I do enjoy how they managed to, describe it in such a way, like with the first taste, for example. Like they describe it as sharp spiciness bursts upon the tongue, representing the surprise at the moment of death. So it's a good. I think that's interesting. Like it's spice, because like when you put spice on your tongue, you kind of jolt.
Yeah.
So I do like the way they used vocabulary to like, and I'm pun intended, spice things up.
Yeah. No, I loved it, because you can get that. It gets you in that mindset, and or like what happens in these certain rooms, because for the listener, this menu is you going through rooms in this house, and something happened in each of these rooms, but like the taste kind of build as you go, and I think that's such a neat concept.
It really is. Like there are like what, 5, right? There are 5 tastes, right?
Yeah. Yes. And then like an interlude.
Yes, like, and they are like Matt said, they're going around the house. Like the first taste happens in the front parlor, and the second taste is in the kitchen pantry, and then the third and fourth taste are at the are outside the house, actually, at the elm tree. And then like the fifth taste, which is the last one, it's in the bedroom, like the master bedroom. So I find it interesting that they decided to end it in the bedroom.
Yes, and like that. So I'm interested in what actually happened, because we have somebody wanting to run away with somebody else, and then you have like a daughter at the end who's like, I won, or something like that.
I think it's more like they like, okay, so I'm gonna this is available for free to read at shimmersign.com, for example, and I'm just gonna go this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler if you haven't read this story, but again, this is free. You can read it anytime, and I highly encourage you to read it because it is Pride. And
Yes.
so the first taste has of the Martha Ridley, who is the matriarch. And then in the second taste, that is of Edward Smith, who's supposed to be the handyman. And the third and fourth tastes are of the Corporal Jeremiah Green,
Yes.
and then Nathaniel Ridley. So, and the last one is of Elizabeth Ridley, the daughter of Martha Ridley. And what I think is that they are like Alex is kind of alluding to the fact that I think Elizabeth Ridley and this Corporal Jeremiah Green were supposed to be wed.
Yeah, I think they were, but Jeremiah and Nathaniel were running away together.
Yes, they had a forbidden affair.
Yes.
Because this is happening in World War One, and as you may know, being out and proud was not a thing there.
Yeah. And so yeah,
So it feels like to me that she killed them.
That's what I was thinking too, as I think she killed them and even maybe the mom.
Mm-hmm. Because
And,
I kind of believe that the mom might not have been that much against it.
yeah. And
But
like there's a little tease of the mom, like, and that's what's so great about the story is you just get this little tease of like, well, the mom died from a burglary accident or a burglary accident, a burglar.
according to police records.
But the cane has
Uh-huh.
been vigorously used, and then when you get to the last line, you're like, I wonder who used it.
Yep.
So like
Exactly.
you get that, and especially again that last line kind of ties to Elizabeth being like, yeah, vengeful.
Yes, definitely. It's like that last line is that we are the same, you and I, but I enjoyed my feast while you only had the dregs. That if that doesn't speak of bitterness and revenge, I don't know what.
So yeah,
This is like petty vengeful vengeance,
yeah. So yeah, this story is just great, and it's just delivered so well, and definitely worth reading. It's short, but like the way they packed so much into this.
There's so many hints, there are so many good descriptions here. They're like really good use of vocabulary, and just you can definitely, if you close your eyes, you can almost picture or like taste the essence of those spirits.
Yeah. Which is I just love it. Just love it dealt this way. And even just that concept of like, even at the beginning, it's just like, yeah, you'll have this chalice that will catch these things. And if your chalice breaks, well, let us know. And just like it's so like this kind of, I don't want to say mundane, but kind of this like thing you would expect at a tasting, like here's what it is.
Exactly. It kind of also almost feels really modern because I would definitely see this happening in haunted houses tours.
Yes, I think that would be an awesome concept. Oh, that's such a great idea.
Right? I think they would definitely benefit from this.
Yes. Oh, because like the usual tour of a haunted house is great, but this is like such a fun concept of like, we're gonna make you feel like you're tasting these spirits, and we're gonna tell you this story, and like, oh, that would be so cool.
Right? Should we send this to the haunted house? To the haunted houses in America?
We should.
Or maybe you should maybe let Alex do it because this is their story.
Yes, I think we should let Alex do this. And so,
Okay,
Alex,
good.
if you're listening, take this. You have $1 million idea right here.
Yep.
So, yes, that was Spirit Tasting List for Ridley House, April 2016. Our next story You Were Once Wild Here by Carly St. George. This is on the dark. So you can get it for free. And this was awesome. I'm interested just in where you're going, what you think about the story, because this has a lot of things happening.
I had basically the entire time I was reading this, just the point of view of a girl who was supposed to be in the Supernatural series.
Yeah, yes. That's what this feels like.
Yeah, like this feels like an episode in Supernatural, but done way better.
Yes.
I'm not like dissing like Supernatural. I really enjoy this show, but this is much better. But like you can feel the Supernatural-esque of it.
Yeah, it's very monster of the week kind of story.
Yeah, because this is a girl. Her name is Emily. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like it's from the point of view of Emily, but it's like but it's written in the second person point of view.
Yep.
So you're kind of like almost like a haunting bystander, just looking through their lives.
Yeah.
And which is fitting because Emily is actually communicating with a dead person.
Yeah.
So, and Emily's parents are monster hunters.
Yes. So her mom, is she a werewolf or something else?
She's something else.
Okay.
For me, I feel like she's a warlock.
Yes. Okay. That's what I was trying to decide, because they talked about something inside them that's much worse.
Yeah. So for me, that's like a warlock. Like you bonded your soul with something eldritch.
Yes. Okay.
And then the father is kind of like in between, trying to mediate between them. So it gave me also the vibes from Santa Clarita Diet.
Oh yeah. Yes.
You know, Timothy. What was his name? Timothy Oliphant.
Yes.
Like it was, I had that kind of vibe from the father. I was like, you're trying to hold on, but you know the seams are tearing at they're tearing apart, but you're holding it together because you need to, for the sake of the people you love the most.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, there was definitely for listeners, this is like this family. They go around hunting monsters and which again, that gets us to that supernatural monster of the week, where it's like this is a common occurrence. And even this world, which is fascinating, is this world, these things are just sort of normal. Like they talk about werewolves and that's normal, and the witch thing is normal. So it's just like, so anyway, that's all just this interesting concept. And like I do like, there's a scene with the dad where he's in jail because he didn't want the police to shoot a wolf.
Yeah.
and Emily's like, yeah, your dad's not much of a fighter, but if you have somebody threaten an animal, he'll go off. And I was like, that's awesome.
Yep. He got points from me for that.
I was like, it's just such a great touch. So it's like,
yeah.
And it's really fun. Like even just overall, the story, like you would want, like I want it more.
Yes.
Like I would be down for this being a series.
Same. I would be down for this to be a complete novel.
Yeah.
It was like it gave you a lot. It gave you so many. It gave you a complete world though. Like the world building in this short story is phenomenal.
Yes.
It's very good. It's like, even though there are just only hints of it, you still get a feeling for how this world is built. And I think, like I said, because you get this feeling that this could have been a really good supernatural spinoff.
Yeah.
So basically, this is Emily. She is kind of like she's either an empath or a psychic, or at least she can communicate with the dead.
Yeah.
And we're basically introduced immediately that like, hey, I'm seeing Laura, my best friend, and she's dead.
Yeah.
And And she is like they are here in town. They have been there for a while, and Emily's mother is investigating murders, like gruesome murders that have been happening around town, and they think this is because of a werewolf attack.
Yeah.
And
And they know. Well,
and
they
then
think that, yeah.
yeah, they have ideas, like suspicions of who might be responsible for this, like who the werewolf is. And usually, given from the hints in the stories, they leave Emily out of the huntings.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just tell her like, you stay at home. It's safer that way. Contact us. Always send us like messengers just to know that you're safe. But because this recent killings involves Laura, her best friend, she finds herself kind of compelled to take action into this investigation by herself.
Yes.
And by doing that, she discovers a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. She
And
like,
yeah,
yeah.
continue.
Well, it's just like, yeah, it's interesting because she like the because you do get the idea to move around a lot. I was like, well, how long have they been here? She's pretty close to Laura, but not completely close. But then,
It's kind of like, yeah, like at the beginning, you feel like, oh, they're just best friends. But then as you go on in the story, like, no, there is more to them.
yeah,
There's this pining between them.
yes,
And I really loved like this is like for real sapphic horror short story.
yes.
And I love that. But
Okay. Yeah.
but I really do love the fact that she, like, when she's describing Laura, she's like this typical, cheerleader. Like she's one of the cheerleading squad. She's a popular girl.
Yeah.
And Laura is not. Laura is basically the typical goth.
Yeah.
Who just keeps to herself. So they're like, but still they're drawn to each other. And the way Emily kind of describes her is interesting because you see that Laura is, whilst she is kind of like this token popular chick, like the most popular girl probably in town, she has a stigma on her. And like she says here, she's sitting beside you in a canoe, half naked. There's nothing sexual about it. Your crushes are all fictional characters, heroines in lipstick and menswear. Anyway, you never had sex dream before. It's interesting. It's to start with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's also like, but she's beautiful, but she's miserable. Who only laughs to change the subject and smiles at anyone she's scared of. I love that description because this is what women in general always have to deal with.
Right.
And the next line that comes after that is also pretty like powerful. She stopped smiling at you 3 weeks ago when he told you that you're ace.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I know people would be like kind of offended by that, like, oh, why did you stop smiling? But like to me, it's like, no, it's because now she feels safe.
Yeah.
Like that's why.
And like it going with that and the idea of Laura, she dates the most popular football player and it's a small town and it's exactly what you said. Like everyone knows her. She's a popular kid. And so what like I kind of was gathering is somebody who, especially with that smiling when she found out that Emily was ace, is kind of this idea of I don't have to put on a front.
Yes, I can take that. I can take down my mask.
Yeah, and I can be this real person. And like as we go through the story and find out like what actually happened, you kind of realize like, yeah, she was kind of maybe she loved being the popular girl at first, but that's not who she really is. And I don't know. Again, we're just reading into this, and so like that's kind of was my like, especially with that and with what we find out is like, okay, she was like, she knew typical what you see of popular people, at least on TV and movies. I mean, the real world is probably very similar to that. A popular person is kind of stuck being this type of person, especially somebody dating the jock football player whose dad is the sheriff, you're
Yep.
you're going to be stuck having to act a certain way.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't really stray from that.
No. So that's I really like that kind of look, and like what you said, the smile at that, or the not smiling, because that kind of gives us the idea of like, okay, she only smiles at people to push them off and to be quiet. So this is like her chance to be real. So I thought that, like, again, just it's like, well, it's like a paragraph, and it's such a powerful paragraph.
Mm-hmm. It is. And then she also, like, Carly also managed to deal another blow by saying, "Hey, by the way, I'm a werewolf."
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
like,
that
because you're like, yeah, but then isn't Emily's mother then haunting you?
Yeah.
And like
Oh
that's also kind of digs into the supernatural like feeling of it, because I like there is a similar episode in Supernatural in which Dean and Sam are protecting a woman who's being haunted by a werewolf.
Oh.
And she's been bitten. So they both like spend nights just keeping her safe, like keeping her like tied to a chair, and like, hey, if you turn, we will protect you. It's fine. And Sam develops feelings for her, and then at the end they realize that there's nothing they can do, and the episode ends that they have to kill her. So it's like this feels like this is like it's going in that direction, and you're like, shit.
Yeah. Yes.
But then, Carly managed to keep up with the mystery.
Yes.
Because I for sure thought, because then as long as when you go further into the story, you're kind of like, oh no, Laura was killed.
Yeah.
And we kind of think like, but it wasn't Emily's mother who killed her, so it might have been another werewolf. So of course you start to immediately think, oh, who's a werewolf? And then you kind of are swept into this mystery of Emily trying to figure out who killed her best friend.
Yeah.
And it becomes so much more complicated than that.
Yes.
And I love that.
Oh, it was awesome. It was great. The way it kind of like exploded up, it exploded the world a little bit, because that's when you start finding out about witches, and
yes,
and the cheerleading squad, which had like a funny name that I can't remember off the top of my head.
Kiss Kiss Girls.
Kiss Kiss Girls. And there's actually a really fun scene where they're kind of like breaking them all down, and you're like,
yes,
okay.
that reminded me of Mean Girls so much.
Yeah. So that I enjoyed that. That was really great.
It was really good. But yeah, the end was really, really good. Like we discover as a reader that there is a witch, and in the squad. So of course, because Laura gave Emily such a weird kind of like message. Like she kept dreaming about her. So like Laura would always enter her dreams to talk with her. But it would always be really like enigmatic. So what Laura said, for example, was the witch is on the squad, the confession is under the pew. So immediately, of course, you think, oh, the witch did it.
Yeah.
But then it's like another whiplash, and it's not. I just love how she managed to like really derail you from the real culprit here.
Yes. That was super awesome. Especially too, like, yeah, you kind of get this idea of who it could be, because there's somebody else that is a werewolf, and so you're like, maybe it's them, but then you're kind of like, is it? And yeah, so there's a lot of mystery elements that kind of pull you in, while you're also kind of getting this idea of who everybody is, of Laura, who Laura really is, and what and what Emily wants, and yeah.
It is really interesting. Like and I love. Should we go into a little bit spoiler territory now?
Yeah, I think we can kind of go and explore. This is a free one on the dark, like we said.
Yeah.
Definitely look it up and read it.
So, of course, Emily, being the high school kid as she is, and this is happening in her high school, she managed to deduct who the witch is.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of interesting how she does it.
Yes.
It's like this. Did Laura come to you for a spell? And it's like how she words this. Like a lot of like a normal person would be like, "What do you mean?" And we would just like kind of wave it off. But like because she managed to spot the witch, she was like, "Wait, what?"
This scene was like an awesome little detective
yes
scene because of just their back and forth, and the fact like there's a part where she's like, I don't have any money to give her to buy this idea, but I do have something better. Here's some pictures of you. And I was like, oh, this is great.
It was really good. So she managed to blackmail the witch cheerleader and into telling her what was it that she like what is it Laura came to her for. And the witch says like she came to me for a spell she wants to do, and it's a spell called the anima bisection. And this spell basically splits your essence in half. And I love the fact that she didn't like there was this one reference. Yeah, like it was funny that when they meet, the witch kind of calls Emily Marceline.
Yeah.
because she's she's a goth, and like Emily's like, I don't know that reference.
Yeah.
But then she's like, but I know what a Horcrux is.
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny. I was like, okay, so you have your pick and chooses of what fascinates you. That's fine. I mean, that makes sense. But apparently the spell is not like a Horcrux. It's how the witch describes it as more like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Which I find it interesting. Like, it's not a split between good and evil, not even id and ego, more like your past self and some possibility hiding inside you, between the wild and the tamed. And it's so funny that we as a reader, we kind of, everything clicks.
Yes.
Like, along with Emily as well. Like, Emily is like, oh shit, it's that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yes, especially because we had one little line earlier that brings us to like helps that, and then that's the dad going to jail because of the harmless animal.
But not also only really like not only that, but there was also a hint that Laura sells as well to her in the dream. She said, I had to do it. You'll understand in the end.
Yes.
And but the thing is, like, this is how I love this story so much, because it managed to derail you. Because when she said that, it's really early in the story. So when she says that, I had the impression like, oh, she killed someone like in self-defense. Like that kind of made you think like, oh, she's the werewolf that her mother's actually hunting then. But then when you go back from where you stand here, when you've realize the spell, then you're like, oh no, this has a completely different meaning. Yes.
And like this was such a neat idea for a werewolf, because I've never really seen this. What happens, which hopefully people are figuring out, but like she split herself. Never seen this concept for like stopping a werewolf or accepting a werewolf. So I thought that was that's a neat idea that I haven't seen. Usually it's just a silver bullet. So like this was a cool way to kind of do it and do something a little different than before.
Yeah. And just the ending of the story definitely left you with wanting a whole lot more. So
Yes.
the I'm gonna read the ending for the listeners. So the ending is kind of like they wake up and basically Emily goes gets coordinates from her mom where they are, like that she has finished the hunt, so she goes back to the woods and she meets her mom. She's covered in blood. Her eyes are still black. There are two corpses at her feet, Jake and Sheriff Cornevalento, with like Jake being the quarterback that Laura was dating and his father. And it says Jake died mid-shift. They both died screaming. Their skin hangs off their bones like ribbons, which is awesome description.
Yes.
And Emily just nods at the father's like, was he human? And he's like, and her mother's like, nah, technically, which is such a Dean thing to say.
Yes.
And then there comes these like the ending paragraphs. More human than your mom, then. The kind of monster who covers up his son's murders time and again. Not the kind desperate to avenge her own son, Kyle Abbott, 14, skipped the grade smart and helplessly goofy. Not the kind who sings her 8-year-old daughter to sleep and then sneaks out to the crossroads and agrees to house the devil. More human than your dad, too, who's always been drawn to the dark and lonely places, who found the old ones cultists piece by bloody piece and helped your mom bury them rather than locking her away. More than human than you too, maybe, as you pick up a shovel and casually bury what's left, split apart or stitched together that's always been the person you are. You'll bury or blackmail anyone in order to survive, to follow the clues, to help your family, to save what's left of a friend. But you can't stay caged anymore. You have to open your mouth. You wait until your dad is released, until you're all back home celebrating with milkshakes. You say, I love you both just so goddamn much, but put me in the game or I walk.
Oh, it's like a pilot episode.
It is, oh my God, are you kidding me? It's such a good, it gives you so much. Like, for example, like what happened to Kyle? Like, we like her brother. We know he was killed by, I think, a werewolf or by the cultists. It doesn't like it doesn't give us enough about that.
Yeah.
But then you're like, can you give us more about like what kind of demon your mom has?
Yes. And the cultists and what they were doing.
Yes. Like, were you there also, or because you said, well, she's like, how she described it, like she's basically been through with everything with them. So I'm like, give us more, please. Sounds amazing.
Yes. Definitely want more. This was awesome. So this was great. Hopefully you should read this. This was a really awesome story.
Definitely.
So yeah, this was a fun time. I think we got 2 good stories in here.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna check out more stories by Carly after this. She has a short story fiction here. Like a short story collection.
Yes.
It's called You Fed Us to the Roses. And I'm like, that sounds like right up my alley.
Yeah. Well, and this actually explains some of it. She's usually obsessing over television or fanfic. That explains it. And This is now your chance, Carly. We want more. You got yourself a series with this one. So
try to get into screenwriting, see if that will help. But I'd just shove this into any producer, please, and I think you're gonna be fine.
Yes, I think so too. Awesome. Well, yeah, I think we're good.
I think we're good too. I think we covered a lot.
Let's see. Where can listeners find you?
I am on Twitter at @VitlemayS. Well, a lot of artists are kind of fleeing ship with Instagram now, so I'm still there, but there's still this weird thing where I can't post anything. So I'm on Kara with a C.
Huh, I've never heard of that.
It's basically a site for art, by artists for artists.
Okay.
So it's kind of like what Instagram used to be.
So it's like the blue sky to Twitter?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I need to be more on Blue Sky, but it's hard juggling all of these social media.
Yeah.
But
I
you
think
can find me also like on my own website is littlemimissedauthor.com.
yeah, I'm on Twitter, and it's funny talking about all that because I feel like I'm seeing more people now jump back into Twitter. So
Yeah.
so maybe I don't know what's going on Blue Sky. I should be on there more. I haven't visited that place in like months. So I feel
Same.
bad.
Me
But
too.
I am on Twitter at Brandenburg DM, and website is matt-brandenburg.com. And let's see, I guess Staring in Abyss has a Twitter handle at Into Staring. And, I'm going to send us out since you sent us in. This is Matt Brandenburg saying, keep staring.